Wow, what a great team win for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles go to 5-0, 3-0 on the road. They beat the LA Rams 23-14, where they pitched a shutout in the second half. Welcome to the Lehocky Postgame Show. We're live from Ocean Casino right here in Atlantic City. I'm Mike Missinelli with my cohorts, Derek Gunn and former All-Pro linebacker Seth Joyner. Fellas, really a simple formula today. They controlled the ball on offense, and they curtailed Matthew Stafford in the second half when it looked like he was going to have a field day with his slot receivers.
I'll tell you what, their ability to control the clock and keep that Rams offense off the field when necessary was quite impressive. But I thought the most impressive aspect of this game was the second half adjustments Sean Desai made defensively to slow down that Rams offense. He inserted Bradley Roby to follow Cooper Kupp, who had 6 catches for 95 yards in the first half. He had 1 catch, which was in the fourth quarter, with meaningless catch at that. Sean Desai's adjustment, we questioned all season long about how Sean Desai would make adjustments throughout a game. Today I thought he made the perfect necessary adjustments to slow down that Rams offense.
Yeah, very impressive. Seth, what did they do? What did they change up in the second half that they weren't doing in the first half? Because we were looking at this like, boy, Kupp's going to run these guys ragged today.
Well, listen, in the pregame, we talked about how much Bradley Roby would play. And I said, listen, they didn't sign this kid to come in here and sit on the bench. They didn't activate him today to sit on the bench. He's going to play. And in the second half, they realized that they needed him to play. His experience, along with the other 2 guys on the outside, means all the difference in the world, because you can see some of the routes that beat them in the first half simply weren't there in the second half. A, because they got up and they challenged the receivers a little more, but B, you had a veteran presence in the slot, a guy who's willing to communicate with everyone across the board, means all the difference in the world, so there's no indecision. There were times when Cooper Kupp was running his option routes, and when he would option and come back in the other direction, Bradley Roby was standing right there. That's the difference between a guy, who's been there before, who's confident in his skill sets and what he does, and knows how to play the game. There's no experience, there's no replacing a guy with that kind of experience. Now, he might not have been in the greatest shape. You probably couldn't play him a whole game. But when you needed him in the second half, they put him in. He was effective. And I'm telling you, that coverage now begins to help the pass rush. And then the pass rush now begins to help the coverage. It all works hand in hand, Mike. It really does.
Yeah, well, listen, Matthew Stafford, 12 for 17 in the first half for 147 yards. And he finished with 222, but 25
Mike,
of those yards were kind of garbage.
75 yards, 75 yards passing for a Super Bowl winning quarterback in a half of football. Come on, man.
That's great. It's a great job, and it was really a great win. Now let's look at Jalen Hurts, because another efficient day for Jalen. He threw for 303, 1 touchdown. He did get intercepted on a bad throw to the end zone, but he got a lot of time to throw the football today in the pocket. Now, he got flushed a couple times and made some great scrambles, but they really protected him in this game, D.
That offensive line gave him the necessary, especially in third down situations. He had all the time in the world for A.J. Brown and the guys to adjust their routes, Dallas Goedert. And, man, did he put the ball on the money when he had to. He made 1 gaffe. He underthrew that ball to the end zone to A.J., which was the result of an interception. But for the most part, back-to-back good games through the air for Jalen Hurts today.
Yeah, and, of course, Aaron Donald was kind of a non-factor today. I mean, the focus was on Aaron Donald. It really was. The Sirianni's focus all week, follow Aaron Donald everywhere. So they made sure they knew what he was doing. But Sua Opeta in the guard position we thought was going to be a liability against him. It didn't turn out to be that way, Seth. Their offensive line really buckled on him.
Listen, there were times where the defensive front was set in a way where it almost forced Sua Opeta to have to block him one-on-one, and he did a great job. And listen, Cam Jurgens is the starter. There's no doubt about that. But I think that, everybody was a little worried, not only, with the transition to Opeta with Landon Dickerson, with Cam Jurgens being down for a while, everyone was probably a little bit concerned. But Sua Opeta is showing everybody, hey, I can get it done. And, I mean, there was plenty of times today where he had the great Aaron Donald one-on-one, and trust me, he handled him one-on-one by himself. But they also had some schemes for some of the stunts that the Rams defense run. And I mean, there was one play where they line him up at defensive end and loop him all the way back around. And Lane Dickerson just ran with him the entire way. He started on the right side and ended with him way on the left side of the formation. So that tells me that, you know, to your point, Nick Sirianni put a lot into being able to stop him, but the guy that's really tasked with making that happen is Jeff Stoutland. Jeff Stoutland did a great job of making sure that he kept Jalen Hurts protected today. And the one sack that he did take, that sack was on him.
Yeah. You know, there's no question that Aaron Donald is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But in 5 games now, career-wise against the Eagles, he's never had a quarterback sack. So you look at historically, you know, what Aaron Donald does against other teams so well, he has not been able to do against this Philadelphia Eagles team through the test of time.
Well, the guy's a monster player. He had 1 pressure, I think, today, which is like amazing.
Yeah.
Now, the Eagles didn't cash as far as touchdowns go, but they moved the ball well enough. They got 3 field goals to tack on with Elliott, short field goals. And the guys that came alive, well, let's talk about the tight end, because they finally got Goddard involved, and they got him involved early. 8 catches for 117 with a 49 long. And, of course, A.J. Brown as well, another monster game, 6 for 127. But, Seth, seeing Goddard exploit the middle of the field was really refreshing.
It was, and he exploited the middle of the field, whether it be zone or whether it be man, which leads you to believe leads you to think, you know, where has he been? What's the problem been? You know, I mean, when you have a guy of that talent level and you're not using him, to me, that's problematic. You figure out ways to get guys, you know, involved. It wasn't a big day for Devontae Smith, but Devontae Smith is never a guy that's going to complain about, you know, not getting targets and things of that nature. He just plays. Dallas Goedert's not going to complain. And I'm not saying the complaining of A.J. Brown is an issue, you know, but I just think that there's only one ball to go around. And when you have as much talent on the roster on the offensive side of the team that you have, that the Eagles have, you know, there's going to be some games where guys are going to be involved, and there's going to be some games where guys aren't. And guys have got to be okay with that, you know, because, listen, they're 5-0. They're 5-0. There's no reason to complain or get bent out of shape about anything. You're 5-0. Now, when the team loses a game or you go into a little bit of a losing streak, now I can understand guys being upset. But just as long as you're winning, that's all that matters. Shut your mouth and wait your turn for the ball to come to you.
Who was upset today? Maybe Devontae a little bit on the sidelines. Nick Sirianni kind of had the red butt today a little bit. He got in Jalen's face a couple times. But this is a damn good team. You know, we've been looking at these games that they're winning, and they're, you know, people saying, well, they're just kind of surviving. But they're doing what they need to do against teams that are inferior. Today they dominated this team when it looked like the Rams were going to have a fighting chance. This is how good this team is. They did it on defense, and on offense they controlled the ball enough. I mean, at the time of possession, Derek, 37-55 for the Eagles to 22-05 for the Rams. They just ground them up.
Well, let's give credit where credit is due. You know, we've questioned these coordinators time and time again. Brian Johnson once again made the necessary adjustments when he had to. Once they got the lead, they went to the ground game. They finished with a $154 on the ground. And defensively, Desai ramped up the pressure on Matthew Stafford. He didn't let him sit back there like he did the first half. I mean, Stafford had plenty of time to sit back there and pick him apart in the first half. He forced the issue in the second half. I think he blitzed more in the second half than he's blitzed all this season, to be honest with you. And he kept coming. And I'm still waiting. I'm thinking, okay, he's going to call off the dogs eventually. No, he didn't. He kept the pressure on Stafford. Once he realized that if you speed up Matthew Stafford's clock, those receivers can't do what they want to do, it made a world of difference in the outcome of the game.
You know, the drive that I keep thinking about was the drive that they came into the out of the first half with, and out of the first half they got the ball down the field in 4 plays to score a touchdown, and there was a monster catch, a one-handed snag by A.J. Brown in that. Plus, there was a penalty that gave him a first down at the 14. And then, you know, they get the pass interference to get it to the 1. And like 4 plays, they score there, which had to take some wind out of the Rams' sail. That was a monster touchdown.
They went the length of the field in 32 seconds and used up the entire 32 seconds. That's demoralizing for a team when you had them down 14-10. You had to feel pretty good at that point about where you were, and all of a sudden you let them walk right back down the field. What's the one thing a coordinator tells you in a situation like that? Don't give up the big play. And what do? Give up the big play over the middle to A.J. Brown, and from there they had luck on their side. They got 2 big plays after that, boom, and then they punch it in. If I'm a defensive coordinator, my defensive personnel, when I go to the locker room, I'm standing there going, what the bleep just happened?
Yep. And they carried over in the second half. The Rams,
oh, my goodness.
They didn't know what the Eagles were doing defensively to them. It kind of carried over, and the Eagles dominated the second half.
The issue.
We got some action in the background here.
The
football games going on.
The issue in the second half, the Eagles defense just really stepped it up in the second half. They went punt, down. 4 possessions in the second half, and they got absolutely nothing. They basically ran, what is that, 22? That's 22 plays, 24 plays in the second half, and wound up with 4 punts and giving it up on downs. They just ramped it up. Mike, I will say this. We talked about the Eagles, and I've tried to get people, to understand this. The Eagles started off slow, but slowly but surely, over this 5-game span, they've gotten better and better in all phases of the game. The problem is, we fail to realize is that, there's players on the other team with great coaches on the other team. They get paid just like the Eagles did, okay? So in an imperfect game, and football is an imperfect game, we want to see the Eagles play to perfection. And realistically, if a player plays at 75% proficiency in a game, he's probably played one hell of a game. Because you got to give that other 25% to your opponent and realize that, they are elite athletes just like you are. The thing is, with them not playing at optimal levels and being able to be as efficient as we would allow for them to be, what we have to realize at the end of the day is that they're finding and figuring out ways to win football games, while not playing at their best. So by the time we get to that important part of the season where we're playing some of the best players, we should be at top levels. And if we're at top levels, my goodness, how are teams going to handle this football team if this is where they're playing and they're 5-0, when we get to where the schedule really meets the road and we're playing at optimal levels, what are other teams going to do with it?
Yeah, I can't see the screen. There was a big roar. People are probably seeing, although you're watching this, you heard the big roar. You guys can see the screen. What did they roar about? What just happened?
You see the ball rolling around on the ground, and Breece Hall picks it up and runs it in for the touchdown. Jets were winning by 3. This touchdown just put them up by 10.
I understand we're in Atlantic City here, and so a lot of New York fans are down here. The Giant fans had limped out of here early as usual. But
I think they left at halftime.
Are carrying them through today.
Next week's opponent is gaining some confidence. That's all.
Yeah,
for the moment.
Right, and this is the team they'll play next week, the New York Jets. So let's give a little love to Hassan Reddick. Now he kind of sealed the game's fate here with a couple sacks when Stafford was trying to get him back, and he didn't have much success doing it. Hassan Reddick with back-to-back sacks on that series.
And you look at the way he got those sacks with that apparatus off his hand. He got leverage on shoulder pads, and he moved the offensive tackle where he wanted to go and then used that quick burst. That's what we've been waiting to see from Hassan Reddick. He's like reborn now that he no longer has that protection on his thumb. So he had 2 today. He's got 3 on the season now. And there's still plenty of time for Hassan Reddick to get double-digit sacks, which I fully expect him to do if he can stay healthy. Because if you look at this Eagles team right now, week to week, you don't know who's going to go down. But that's the nature of the NFL. But this Eagles team was so healthy last year, the injury bugs are finally catching up to them. But the bottom line is the depth on both sides of the football are carrying them through right now.
Big series also was they got the field goal to make it 20-14. and they went 17 plays, ate up 8 minutes of clock, only got a field goal out of it. But Hurts made a couple great plays in that drive. He had a scramble to the 45-yard line for a first down, and then he had all day in the pocket, and he hit AJ for 21 to get him down there. Now, should we be worried about them not cashing in touchdowns today when they got there?
I don't like their efficiency in the red zone, and the issue is that last year they were one of the best teams at finishing in the red zone. Today they were 2 for 6 in the red zone again against a team that's in the bottom quarter, of red zone efficiency, in the Rams. So it's worrisome because you're gonna. I don't know. I think Jake Elliott might be leading, the league in points this year. I mean, because every week it seems like he's 4 or 5 field goals every single week. Now, I'm just mentioning it because you brought it up. They can't keep operating like that. They've got to become much more efficient in the red zone if they're going to get to where they want to get to when it's all said and done. Because these better teams that they play against, they're not going to beat these teams with field goals. They're going to have to beat these teams with touchdowns. So they got to get better in that area. They've just been. I think they ranked like 27th in the NFL. Through the first 4 weeks of the season and red zone efficiency, for a team that's 5-0, that's miraculous if you really stop and think about it.
So Mike, here's all you need to know about the Eagles' lack of red zone efficiency. Last year they were 69% in efficiency. The year before that, 62%. They came into this game at 46% efficiency. That number's going to dip because they were 2 for 6 today.
Yeah, and the defense is not always going to pitch a second-half shutout.
No.
So we have to worry about that. All right, let's take a breath here. And if you're looking to hire right now in the IT, engineering, manufacturing, or technology fields, all you got to do is contact Gary Kane and his team at Kane Partners Staffing Solutions. And here's how you can connect.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
All right, so this was a really impressive second half for a number of reasons. But the first reason, the Eagles came in here 27th in the league passing yards against and 30th in the league passing touchdowns. And they're playing really with a secondary that really has a lot of moving parts in it. Today they had to throw a new guy in there, but early on it looked like the new guys that they're trying to play were not having a lot of success. So the adjustments that the side made in the second half with these kind of movable parts and guys that are inexperienced, to me, it's pretty amazing.
Well, they have no choice. You're on a youth movement. You're going to have to give them valuable experience. Eli Riggs, he learned a valuable lesson, or whatever they discussed in the second half, he made the adjustments as well. Justin Evans was back. He had to make necessary adjustments. And then you incorporate a guy you just brought off the street on Tuesday as well. So whatever they discussed in the second half, whatever adjustments they made, worked to perfection. Anytime you keep any offense in the National Football League under 100 yards and a half, you've more than done your job. You look at the way the Rams are moving up and down the field in that first half. All of a sudden, they come out in the second half, they play a much different brand of football. And it started up front. Sean decided I cannot let Matthew Stafford stand back there. He's not the most mobile quarterback in the National Football League. What's the best way to get to him? Get a hand in his face, make him hear footsteps. I was surprised Desai kept the pressure up the entire second half. I thought he would do it sporadically. But once he figured that element of the game would work, it made a complete difference in how it messed with the Rams' passing timing mechanisms.
Well, D-Gun, listen, every single quarterback, in my opinion, his Achilles heel is pressure, especially when you're talking about a quarterback who doesn't have mobility. And Matt Stafford does not have any mobility whatsoever. So the smart thing to do against quarterbacks like that, speed up his clock, move him off his spot, make him uncomfortable.
Especially with a bad hip.
Yeah, and he missed a lot of throws that were there, because they sped up his clock. Now, the thing I don't understand is why we don't do it against these younger quarterbacks who are a lot more inexperienced and really don't know what they're looking at. Is really, you're only going to give them one read. So why not implement it all the time? But again, it goes back to, in my opinion, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch this game probably late tonight or tomorrow because I really want to see what adjustments were made in the second half from the standpoint of where Slay and where Bradbury were playing. I think in the first half they played off. We complained about it the entire first half, how much off they were playing and how that affected, these three-man routes and the motion that you're getting. And I think that in the second half they made the change, because you can get all the pressures in the world. You can't get there and you can't finish the deal. I call them almost. I hate pressure. I hate people saying, we got all these pressures. Don't nobody give a damn about no pressures. Get to the quarterback because you want to know something, D-Gun, and I know you don't agree with me sometimes when it comes to the pressure.
Right.
If I'm the quarterback, you can pressure me and make me move right, and I can throw an 80-yard touchdown. That pressure don't mean a damn thing. What means something is when you get to the quarterback and you pressure him and make him throw an interception, or you get there and you get the sack. That's what pressure. That's the kind, and then you put in his mind the pressure that, oh goodness, here they come. They coming with the heat. I got to hurry up and get the ball. That's the kind of pressure I'm talking about. But it runs counterintuitive, guys, when you get pressure up front because you're blitzing, but your cornerbacks are playing 10 yards off the ball. The smart quarterbacks, they're going to just raise up and they're going to take the low-hanging fruit. So if you get the guys up and you bump them at the line of scrimmage or you play tighter, now you make the quarterback make great throws, okay? And trying to make great throws under pressure sometimes leads to interceptions, and quarterbacks are a lot less likely to want to throw those tight balls under those kind of pressure situations. So they're off target, they throw them away, they'll take the sack rather than trying to turn it over.
Here's where I think almost pressure comes into play, though. When you're bringing that pressure from different angles, you're not coming from the same spot every time. You force a quarterback to take his eye off his receiver down the field because he really doesn't know whether it's delayed pressure or right off the snap, if it's coming from here, here, or here. You take your eye off your receiver for a fraction of a second, Seth, all of a sudden you miss that window of opportunity, and you allow defense to converge on that receiver, and a lot of times that quarterback will make an errant throw. Even the great quarterbacks, it's a mechanism that goes off in their heads. And if you're hitting him and get enough hits on him and you're bringing it from various spots, that's a psychological battle that you're winning more times than not.
I agree 100%. I was just being facetious. But my point,
you finally got me instead of me getting you. You finally got me.
But my point is too, the thing that Desai did today, which I love, is he showed some creativity and some diversity.
Yes.
It wasn't just the linebackers coming.
Yes.
Like last week, it was Morrow or Cunningham or a combination of the two. I mean, Roby's only been here since, Tuesday?
Yeah.
I saw him come on a couple of blitzes.
Yes.
So now you're beginning to show offenses a variety of different things. The next step is, okay, show them something over here, and then drop out in the zone coverage and bring a guy from this side.
Yeah.
That free hitter that the quarterback doesn't see that turns into a sack, fumble, scoop, and score.
Yeah.
Or, a hurried throw that winds up as an interception, or a guy that sees him coming and just lays down and takes the sack. But the diversity of the different blitzes that he brings is the things that excites me because last year with Jonathan Gannon, even when he came, it was so predictable. It was like knowing that the sun comes up in the east and sets in the west every single time.
Yeah. Early in the game, they were exploiting guys like Goodrich and Ricks and even Morrow in coverage. And the turnaround happened. Stafford made a great throw for a touchdown to Nacua. Puka Nacua can really play. So they got that touchdown, and he beat Bradbury on the play. But then in that series, if you remember, Slay got beat with a big play by Kupp for 39 yards. And Kupp at that point had 6 catches for 95 yards at that point in the game. And the turnaround came when the Eagles came back. The Rams had a 14-10 lead at the time, and the Eagles got the ball with 32 seconds left and got down the field for a touchdown, and they had the lead, and that's when the coverages changed where they dominated the second half of the game.
Well, it's a chess match, and strategic moves have to be made every down, every series. And I'm just so impressed with what Sean Desai did. He realized that he cannot let his secondary, as it was, just stay back there and defend the back end of the field because it was not working. So what's the best way? We got to take a risk. We got to spin that roulette wheel, take a risk. Here's Matthew Stafford with an injured hip. We have to get pressure on him and move him. And look what happened. Once you moved him, not the same quarterback. If you let him stand in the pocket all day and pick you apart like he did the first half for the most part, he'll kill you. He's that good. Now, I'm not saying Matthew Stafford's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he's good enough to know what he's looking at down the field, and he's got a collection of receivers that can do a lot of damage. With Cooper Kupp back in there to go along with those two young kids, they've got a lot of weapons to play with, and Tyler Higbee as well, the tight end. But because the Eagles were able to get in his face and bring that heat from different directions and move him off their spot, Matthew Stafford was not the same quarterback.
No, he was not.
But the thing that I believe that they realized in the second half that they were non-committed to in the first half is that the Rams don't really have – listen, they've got they got some great possession receivers, but they don't have that guy that just stretches the field, that strikes fear in you. So I think once Desai realized that we don't have to worry about a guy running away from us, a guy beating us deep with a double move, that most of the routes that they run, they're intermediate routes. They're uncovers, they're option routes, corner routes, in routes, little short stuff that you can keep in front of you. Then he realized that he can go ahead and be aggressive, with these wide receivers and challenge them at the line of scrimmage. I would submit to you that they need to play like that more often, even if you got a guy that can stretch the field. And I'm not saying all the time. It's just like my position on blitzes. I'm not saying blitz all the time. What I'm saying is that you have to bring pressure even when you're getting pressure with your front four. And sometimes you got to play up and challenge people at the line of scrimmage, and sometimes, you got to play off. Like, I was really upset on the Puka Nacua touchdown. Bradbury got up and pressed. If you're going to get up and press, then put your damn hands on the guy, okay? There's no sense of getting up and press and then open the gate and letting the guy run by you, and you don't touch him to impede his route, and then he runs right by you, and now you're out of phase, you're out of position. If you at least get your hand on him to reroute him a little bit, now you can get in position, you can get in phase with him, and now you're in position to stop that touchdown. But he just got up, open the gate, and let the guy run right by him. And I'm like, what's the point? If you ain't going to put your hands on him, get your ass back. Excuse me.
All right, Mark Farzetta is going to join us in a little bit because lost in the shuffle here is a great game that Jalen Hurts had. I mean, he really had a great game, and we're talking about the defense, so we'll explore that when we come back. Farzy joins us after this. It is the Pond Lehocky Eagles post-game show live from Ocean Casino.